I wanted to do a follow-up video today on my last mouthpiece video that I did. So if you haven't watched it yet, go check it out before you watch this, because I am going to tell you which option was which, so I don't want to spoil it for you. But I wanted to go ahead and let you all know that I appreciate the feedback that I got on that video. And first of all, option 1 was the Grabner mouthpiece, and then option 2 was the Vandoren mouthpiece. So with that, I kind of wanted to have a conversation today about those mouthpieces. Not a very long one, or at least hopefully not. You guys know me, so I'll try to keep it short. But I had reasons for why I chose the one that I ended up choosing, and I wanted to kind of talk about the pros and cons of each. So first of all, I received a comment from Marty, and thank you for commenting on the video. I appreciate your participation and letting me know what you chose. And you made a really great point in that in these videos, you might not have seen one of my first videos that I did in this kind of series where I was changing my setup entirely. And so I should have said in each video what my whole setup was at the time. And I did want to make that known that I do play on a Selmer Privilege, and I use the Hexa Silverstein ligature, and then I do have the MOBA bell and barrel made from Cocobolo wood. So just putting that out there for, you know, comparison's sake. And obviously I didn't change any of that setup with the previous mouthpiece video that I did comparing these two. But I wanted to kind of go into why I chose the one I chose, which leads me to say that I chose actually to do the Grabner mouthpiece. And I got some feedback from a couple of people and saying that they preferred option 2, which was the Vandoren, which is what I had been playing on. And there were reasons why I did not choose that one. And I wanted to first talk about the specs a little bit on these mouthpieces. So the BD5 has an opening, a tip opening of 113. So it's not necessarily a closed tip, but it's also not like a very open tip either. So, you know, M15s, they're on the more closed tip side of things, but it's not as open as like a B40 or B45 mouthpiece from Vandoren. The Grabner mouthpiece is actually a closed tip mouthpiece. So it's a little bit different in that sense. And then also with the Vandoren mouthpiece, it does have a more compact sound than the Grabner mouthpiece. Just for comparison's sake, it does have that like more focused sound to it, which I really do like whenever I'm like playing it back. I do like that aspect of the Vandoren BD5. But also the Vandoren BD5 causes, for me personally in my setup, a lot of intonation issues, particularly with being on the flat side, especially the extremes of the registers, so the low shallow and then the high altissimo. And so with that, with the Grabner, it's more in tune throughout, although I do still have some issues with being a little bit on the flat side with my altissimo. But I did want to also say that I was playing on the BD5 for approximately 3 years whenever I made that video last week. And so I'm used to the BD5 and I'm used to its tendencies, so naturally I feel like I am going to play it a little bit better than the new mouthpiece because it's just more comfortable to play on. However, I will say for the BD5 that I kind of edited out of the clip. I want to throw this in really quickly though. Oh man. What you just saw pretty much was there is a lot of resistance with the BD5. And I know sometimes that's like a trade-off whenever you have a mouthpiece that is more focused and centered. There's a lot of back pressure, and I don't like that. And so it's kind of like for me with the Grabner mouthpiece, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of that centered sound for ease of playing. And hands down, the Grabner mouthpiece is way easier to play in so many areas for so many reasons. And you still get a warm, dark tone that you get from the BD5, but it's just easier to play on. And I feel like it actually is better with facility definitely enhances the facility, and Grabner even mentions that as like one of the specs for it, and that he prides himself on is ease of facilitation. And the intonation's better, like I said. And then one thing too, so I like to play a lot of contemporary music, and with that comes a lot of articulation and extended techniques. And I have to say that Grabner also, in my opinion, definitely was better than the Vandoren BD5 for that. Keep in mind, this is the Grabner S3M-LE. So I can't speak on the other ones. I did play the S2C, I think was the other one in that video, and I have a video comparing the S3M-LE with that S2C. And so you can kind of hear a little bit of the difference on that. But I can say with articulation that I can articulate more quickly, and also the articulation is clearer. So I definitely love that as well. The dynamic range on the Grabner mouthpiece is way better than the BD5. You can fight me on that one, but hands down, dynamics way wider. That's part of the con with the Grabner though, because you really have to focus your air and be careful, especially as you crescendo, not to let that tone spread, which is a common issue for all musicians. And this is kind of the trade-off a little bit too. You can still get that very focused sound as the BD5, you just have to think about it and be aware of it more so than you have to. BD5 is more natural to have that focus sound, you don't have to work as hard to get it, but you can still get and achieve that same sound with the Grabner. Again, you just have to think about it. So it's just making sure you're aware, and I think once I'm more used to playing on that mouthpiece, it'll be second nature and it won't be something I have to like keep reminding myself of. So if you think in the clips, you can definitely hear it when I'm crescendoing up, and also I'm using, you know, just a standard mic on a camera, so it was not my professional microphone. I agree though with you guys in that last video. I honestly would have chosen option 2 for the same reason, but in person I promise it doesn't sound that way. I do think with control that you can still achieve that same focused sound as the BD5, but be able to play louder and softer on the, well, really just louder. Honestly, I mean, all clarinet players, if you're well trained, can really decrescendo to absolute nothing. It's not so hard to decrescendo, but the crescendos are the ones that you really want to stay rounded and keep that sound very centralized. Also with the extended techniques, which I hadn't touched on yet, way easier on the Grabner as well. And also, just something I want to talk about too is the reeds. So with the reeds, the BD5 essentially is around a 3 to a 3.5 plus is the range. In that video, something I had not told you, I was playing on a Leger signature, strength number 4. So I had typically liked my reeds to be on the stronger side previously, and that was also with the mouthpieces that I was using. I was using an M15 Lyre, I think, before I got the BD5. Another thing I want to disclose to you guys, I'm like being the scientific researcher I am, listing my limitations. Whenever I played on the BD5, it was primarily in Albuquerque. So with Albuquerque, you have that whole elevation difference, so you're a lot higher up. And honestly, when I first got there, I had to go down in my reed strength. I could not play on 4s. I had to go down to a 3.5 plus whenever I got to Albuquerque. But I will say, I mean, obviously I've been doing these videos in Austin where the elevation's not like that, so, and it was still really difficult to play on. So just wanted to let you guys know that though, like from my experience in Albuquerque, it was really difficult to play the music I wanted to play with that mouthpiece, and honestly, just and a lot of teachers are this way, but I had to change mouthpieces just because my teacher recommended that I switch over, and it did help me in some aspects on my sound. I'm not going to say like I absolutely hated it, but it was not my favorite mouthpiece and did not suit me for the type of music I like to play. So if you like playing contemporary music, I would not recommend the Vandoren BD5, especially when you're doing multiphonics or quarter tones, which I just started learning this past week. I've not played music with quarter tones. Working on a piece with quarter tones in it, and smoother for that, and just your, you know, your glissandi are way better on the Grabner mouthpiece as well. Way smoother, you can bend pitches. I mean, it's just way better facility on the instrument, and also just easier to do extended techniques of any type. Flutter tonguing even is way better, easier to get that sound out and the pitch not go super flat, because that's typically an issue with flutter tonguing, is your pitch kind of goes really flat on the flutter tonguing to get it out, or to get the effect. But anyways, I could go on and on and on about these comparisons, but that's ultimately why I chose to go with the Grabner mouthpiece over the Vandoren. With this one, I did want to put out there too, which I found interesting, was that Grabner even states that this is specifically for European cut légère, which I've never really liked because it just seems always too open. And so I feel like that's also what's contributing to that spread that you sometimes get or you hear, especially when you play louder. But I will say that this mouthpiece made me love European cut légères. So I'm not as against them as I once was. This is the first time I've been playing on European. And like I said in that video for the Vandoren mouthpiece, I played on the Signature 4. For the Grabner mouthpiece, I played on a actually 3 3/4 European cut. Now, with the reason why I say actually is because it's technically made for a strength 4. And I have a strength 4 European cut, but I feel like it just doesn't sound as great. And he even says on his website that you can order it specifically for a 3 3/4 if you want to play on that strength reed, and he can tailor the mouthpiece to that reed specifically. Mine was designed for the strength 4, but like I said, I actually like playing it on a 3 3/4 better. So, you know, I wanted to put that out there too, being the researcher that I am, to let you guys know that I played on a 3 3/4 on the mouthpiece that's designed for a 4. But, you know, that's kind of the beauty in music, is that it's different for everybody. And for me personally, the 4 just seems to have still a little too much resistance to the sound. That's just for me. But I recommend the mouthpiece as a whole. If you want to get the one that's tailored more for the 3 3/4 specifically, go for it. I would just say the one with the 4, whenever I play it on a 4, it just sounds fuzzy. It's not as clear of a sound, and it's not as easy. And one of the main things too is the articulation. The articulation starts to get very thuddy with a 4. You can hear the articulation too much, and I don't like that whenever I'm playing. Also, if it seems like this is ill-placed in the recording, it's because I just signed off the recording with you guys and forgot one point that I wanted to make about the Grabner mouthpiece. So I'm going to make it really quickly, and I'm throwing it in somewhere in the video, so surprise. The Grabner mouthpiece has better prominence of overtones. So that's one thing that was a little bit different for me. I'm not used to hearing my overtones as much, and so it was actually kind of annoying whenever I first started playing on it. But now, especially whenever I listen back, comparing it to the BD5, you can really tell a difference if you're really listening for those overtones. So I did want to put that in here too, in case you're super, you know, I don't know, picky or specific about overtones and hearing your overtones while you're playing. But yeah, just wanted to put that in here. So yeah, officially that is the mouthpiece I'm going with at this moment. So I know this is turning into a really long comparison video. I'm nerding out. I love doing stuff like this. I love talking about clarinet things in general, but yeah, these mouthpieces, it's been a journey trying to get a mouthpiece. Yeah, thank you all for joining me for this video. It's a little bit different from my other ones. I know the other ones have been a little more interactive and engaging in the sense of you get to vote and everything, but I thought for the mouthpieces I wanted to really discuss my rationale for choosing the one I chose, and I feel like particularly because this is like the first thing that the polls and such didn't agree on with my opinion. And so in the past you guys have been voting for the same ones that I agree with, but people like the sound of the BD5 better. And like I said in the clips, just if you only had those two things to listen to compare, I would agree with you on that. And so I just kind of wanted to explain why I'm going against what majority voted for in this. And again, thank you, Marty, for your comment. I appreciate it. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope everyone has a fantastic Independence Day weekend. Stay safe, be smart, and I will see you in the next one. Okay? Bye.